I heard a lot of negative stuff in the last 7 days about this movie, but all of that goes right out the window the moment I watched it. What's going on, people? Alex Thorn here, and I'm just a rock and roller who in his downtime likes to watch movies while wearing a bandana. And this time, I finally got a chance to watch something good. I can't tell you how many times I tremble in fear watching an original movie from one of these streaming platforms because, it is extremely hit or miss. And I value my time. I really do. Once I sit down to finally zone in on the next 2 hours of TV viewing, especially because I'm constantly running around doing stuff, I want to enjoy what happens on that screen. And thankfully, Netflix did it with this incredible 2 hours and 15-minute film called Rebel Ridge. A former Marine confronts corruption in a small town when local law enforcement unjustly seizes a bag of cash he needs to post his cousin's bail. And like a lot of Netflix's movies, this movie does not waste any time getting into what it is about. It immediately starts with what you see in the trailer is what it starts with in the movie, and we are off to the races. Obviously, I'm not spoiling anything for you, and this will be a spoiler-free review, but when you see it in the trailers, you do see our main character, Terry Richmond, played by Aaron Pierre, who does an incredible job. He is our Rambo in this film, our Jack Reacher. He does an incredible job in this movie, and he's on his bike, and police show up behind him and run him off that bike. I'm like, this is crazy. Why did that happen? But he had on headphones like so many people do, and he didn't hear them, and apparently they were tailing him. But doesn't change the fact that this is a black man in a small town full of mainly white people. The crazy thing about it is Terry is carrying a huge amount of cash on him to the sum of like $36,000. And they take it from him and tell him, if you want to fight for this in court and you want to go through this legally, go ahead, try to get it back. That's bad. He's using that money to bail out his cousin. Was caught with possession of marijuana. And it's such a small thing, right? Compared to all the bad things that can happen. He wasn't selling, he was just in possession. And that was enough to take him to jail for 90 days. And there's a reason why 90 days is key in this, because as the movie goes on, it is unveiled that a lot of misdemeanors and little minor things people are getting arrested for, and they're being held for those 90 days because after 90 days, the body cam footage is erased. Our lead character, Terry, tries to handle things the right way, but unfortunately, when he puts in a legal complaint, everybody at that station is in on it, including the chief, Don Johnson. This movie gets across racism. This movie gets across corruption. This movie gets across a lot of things without having to say the words, without having to do over-the-top violence. This movie does a lot in the case of like Chief, where you clearly see that he's corrupt, but he doesn't do anything that is ridiculously over the top. I usually come on here and complain about 2 hours and 15-minute runtimes movies. I like my movies to be about 90 minutes. And in this case, I never felt like this was going overtime. I never felt like, God, would you just hurry up? There is a little bit of a slow build in the beginning, but honestly, like 20 minutes in, you're fully invested in this. And I also thought the lead character, Terry, was a little dry at first. But as you press on in the movie, you realize he's very calm because he's fully aware of what he's capable of. Much like another person who I mentioned earlier, John Rambo. Before I saw this movie, I saw so many comments in the trailer section about Oh, can't we just leave movies with racism out the door? Here we go, bashing police, coming up with fake scenarios. Seriously, they replaced Rambo with a black guy this time. All of those type of comments I saw. And that should just show you right there how people don't get it and how the world works or doesn't work because they don't really understand it because they're not in those positions. But this is a scenario, at least in its premise, that does happen often. And I think the greatest thing about this movie is that it doesn't give us this fake happy ending. There are twists and turns that happen. There are people that are one way and then they turn another way. There are avenues where people are doing things that they feel guilty. And by the end of this movie, you're left with a lot of questions, but they're good questions. They're questions that lead you to want to see a sequel to this movie. And with all of that being said right there, I think it's time we get to the rating for Netflix original Rebel Ridge. I'm gonna give Rebel Ridge 4 bandanas out of 5. This movie hit on everything that it was trying to do. And it took me just, while I'm preparing the scene here to film, to think about, I was kind of in my mind saying, I wish there was a little bit more blood. I wish he was more lethal. I wish we got a little bit more this, and that. But at the end of the day, it's really cool because much like, right away what comes to my mind is much like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the T-800 did in T2, didn't injure anybody, kill anybody on orders of John Connor. Terry, because he's not a bad person, because this isn't about bloodshed, this is about doing what's right. This is about getting your point across. This is about exposing bad cops and corruption in a small town. So let me know, have you watched Rebel Ridge? Are you going to watch it after watching this review? I know there's a lot of spoilers online, but try to avoid them. Go into this with the open mind that this stuff really does happen. Maybe not the way it happens in the end of this movie, but the corruption is there. This is a good movie. No forced sexuality, no over-the-top violence and blood and gore, none of that stuff. This is a great story with a great lead and a great cast. Guys, if you want to talk about it some more, you know what you got to do. You got to join this channel's memberships. That's right. Thorn Theater has real deal membership laminated cards for all of you Thornaholics out there and horror lovers. Not only that, but you get to request your own reviews. Let's say there's something out there you're really dying for me to review, but the masses may not want it, or it's not something that's gonna move the numbers. Guess what? You pay. You control the narrative. You get early access to videos, live only chats, as well as exclusive watch-alongs just for members right here on this channel. And if you don't feel like committing to that, you can always leave a super chat, super thanks, or buy me a coffee. That's right. Buy me a coffee right now is a way that you can support somebody like me for making videos just for you guys, doing what we love to do. And oftentimes we do it at a loss, but for the passion. But guess what? If you buy me a coffee, at least you're fueling the journey. And right now, Buy Me a Coffee has an update to where when you leave your note of why you have gifted me coffee, I can respond back to you in video form. Guys, I just reached 200,000 views on this channel. 200,000 views on a channel that started with two guys laughing, almost drunk in laughter because of a terrible movie. Jeepers Creepers. The last one, Reborn or whatever it was called. 200K views, over 300 videos, and 2 years in. Thank you so much for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Remember, just like I mentioned with the memberships, you can always get more from this channel, live only streams for members, and priority replies in lives if you're a member. There's so much coming and there's so many movies. This train never has to stop, guys. And yeah, I'm tongue-tied because I'm still, shocked and taken aback at the fact that you guys have gotten me to 200,000 views. So here's to 250K coming up. I guarantee you we're gonna hit it by the end of this year. I'm Alex Thorn, and you know what I gotta do. I gotta rock out, watch some movies, and review them for you.